The text came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was already in bed, scrolling through design inspiration for the marketing campaign I was launching that week. "We need to talk, tomorrow. It's important." I stared at those words from Derek, my boyfriend of 4 years, and felt my stomach drop. Nobody sends "we need to talk" at midnight unless they're about to blow up your life. I knew it. But some small, hopeful part of me tried to convince myself it could be something else. Maybe he wanted to finally discuss moving in together. Maybe he'd gotten a job offer in another city and wanted my input. I barely slept. The next evening, he showed up at my apartment with that look, the one where someone's already made a decision and is just going through the motions of telling you. He sat on the edge of my couch, wouldn't meet my eyes, and said the words that would change everything. "I've been seeing someone else. Her name is Vanessa. She understands me in a way you never could." I remember staring at him, waiting for more. Waiting for him to explain how he'd managed to cheat on me, fall for someone else, and somehow make it my fault for not understanding him enough. "She's an artist," he continued, as if that explained everything. "She gets the creative struggle, the need for space and freedom. She doesn't put pressure on me about the future or question my choices." Ah, there it was. Vanessa didn't ask him when he was going to finish his novel that he'd been working on for 6 years. Vanessa probably didn't mention that he'd been fired from 3 jobs in 2 years for not fitting the corporate culture. Vanessa definitely didn't suggest that maybe, just maybe, he should contribute to rent occasionally instead of spending his unemployment checks on vintage synthesizers. "I need someone who believes in my vision," Derek said, finally looking at me. "You're too practical, too focused on money and stability. That's not who I am." I'd supported this man through every impulsive decision, every abandoned project, every "I'm going to find myself" phase. I'd paid for groceries when he was between opportunities. I'd listened to him talk about his dreams for hours while my own career plans got pushed to late-night hours after he'd finally gone home. I'd rearranged my schedule countless times to attend his friends' basement concerts and art shows, but I was too practical. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "You're leaving me for someone who understands you better? I think it's for the best. For both of us." He stood up, clearly eager to leave now that he'd accomplished his mission. "You deserve someone more conventional. Someone who wants the same things you want." He said it like it was a kindness. Like he was setting me free to find someone boring enough to match my boring dreams of financial stability and mutual respect. "Get out," I said quietly. "Emma, don't be like that. Get out." He left. I sat on my couch for 20 minutes in complete silence, and then I did something that surprised even me. I didn't cry. I didn't call my friends to rage about what had happened. I didn't pour myself a glass of wine and spiral into self-pity. I opened my laptop and started making a list. At the top, I wrote things I couldn't do because Derek thought they were too materialistic, conventional, boring. The list got long fast. Apply for the senior marketing position that required relocation. Buy the luxury car I'd been eyeing. Book that solo trip to Italy I'd been dreaming about. Redecorate my apartment in the sleek, modern style I loved instead of the bohemian, eclectic aesthetic Derek insisted had more soul. Take the advanced yoga classes at the expensive studio downtown. Invest in a professional wardrobe instead of shopping at thrift stores to prove I wasn't shallow. For 4 years, I'd dimmed myself. I'd made myself smaller, less ambitious, less interested in the things I actually wanted because Derek had convinced me that wanting nice things meant I was superficial. That caring about career advancement meant I was a corporate sellout. That enjoying luxury was somehow morally inferior to his perpetual struggling artist lifestyle. The next morning, I called my boss and told her I wanted to be considered for the senior marketing director position opening up at our New York office. She sounded thrilled. I'd been the top performer on our team for 3 years running, but I'd always declined opportunities that would require moving or increased time commitment. Because of Derek, because he needed me available, because his needs always came first. 2 weeks later, I had the job. The pay increase was substantial, nearly double my current salary. They wanted me to start in a month. I gave notice on my apartment, sold or donated half my belongings, and bought a one-way ticket to New York. My friends threw me a going-away party. and I felt lighter than I had in years. Are you okay? My best friend Melissa asked me that night, her arm around my shoulders. I mean, really okay? Derek just left you and now you're moving across the country. I'm better than okay, I told her, and I meant it. I feel like I can finally breathe. New York was everything I needed. The company put me up in corporate housing for the first month. A beautiful apartment in Chelsea with floor-to-ceiling windows and a doorman. I'd never lived anywhere with a doorman before. Derek would have mocked it as unnecessary extravagance. I bought myself fresh flowers every week just because I could. I purchased the designer handbag I'd wanted for 2 years. I joined an upscale gym with a spa and took myself to get massages every other week. I ate at nice restaurants without feeling guilty about the cost. I invested in quality furniture, art that I actually loved, and a wardrobe that made me feel powerful. And I was good at my job. Really good. Within 3 months, I'd led a campaign that increased our clients' revenue by 40%. Within 6 months, I'd been featured in a marketing industry publication as a rising star to watch. Within a year, I'd been promoted again. I started dating, casually at first. Men who had careers and goals and didn't need me to fund their creative journeys. Men who were excited about my success instead of threatened by it. Men who wanted to take me to nice restaurants and weekend getaways, who appreciated ambition, who understood that wanting a beautiful life wasn't shallow. It was knowing your worth. I ran into Derek's brother at a conference in Boston about 14 months after the breakup. He seemed surprised to see me looking so different. I'd grown out my hair, updated my style, and I was wearing a suit that cost more than Derek's monthly expenses used to. Emma, wow, you look amazing. Derek mentioned you moved to New York? I did. I'm the VP of marketing for Access Media now. His eyebrows shot up. VP, that's incredible. Congratulations. Thank you. How's Derek doing? He hesitated, and I could see him debating how much to tell me. He and Vanessa broke up about 6 months ago. She moved to Portland with some other guy. Derek's back home living with our parents. He's working at the coffee shop on Main Street. I wish I could say I felt vindictive satisfaction, but mostly I just felt sad for him. Sad that he'd built his entire identity around rejecting conventional success to the point where he couldn't achieve anything at all. I hope he finds what he's looking for, I said. And I meant it. He asks about you sometimes. I think he realized he made a mistake. We both made mistakes, I said gently. I let myself become smaller for someone else's comfort. That was mine. 3 months ago, I bought my first apartment. A stunning 2-bedroom in the West Village with original hardwood floors and a balcony overlooking a tree-lined street. It cost more than I ever imagined spending on real estate, but I could afford it comfortably. I hired an interior designer and created a space that felt like me. Elegant, modern, with pops of color and art that made me happy. I hosted a housewarming party and invited my colleagues, my new friends from yoga class, and a few people I'd met through networking events. As I stood on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the buildings gold while laughter and conversation floated from inside, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Not for Derek leaving me, but for the gift his departure had given me, permission to stop making myself smaller. Permission to want what I wanted without apology. Permission to build a life that felt abundant and full and completely, unapologetically mine. Last week, I was grabbing coffee before a meeting when I saw him. Derek. He was behind the counter at a Starbucks, wearing a green apron, taking orders. He looked tired, older. He saw me at the same moment I saw him. Emma? Hi, Derek. Wow. You look incredible. Ted of who someone else needed me to be. Glorious. Thank you. I meant to leave it at that, to order my coffee and go, but something made me pause. How are you? I'm okay. Working here, trying to figure out my next move. He laughed, but it was hollow. Turns out the creative life isn't as romantic as I thought. Vanessa figured that out faster than I did. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm sorry about a lot of things. He looked at me directly now. I was an idiot, Emma. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I convinced myself you were holding me back. But you were the only thing holding me up. I felt a twinge of the old sympathy, the instinct to comfort him and assure him everything would be fine. But I didn't, because it wasn't my job anymore to manage his feelings or bolster his ego. You'll figure it out, I said simply. Can I get a grande oat milk latte? He made my coffee, hands shaking slightly. When he handed it to me, he said, I heard you're doing really well. VP at a major firm. That's amazing. I always knew you had it in you. Time ago. Not painful. Not satisfying, just neutral. That's growth, she said, raising her glass. To Emma, who stopped making herself small for men who couldn't actually ins. You told me I was too conventional. Too materialistic. Too focused on money. I was wrong. He looked down. I was intimidated by how together you had your life. How ambitious you were. I told myself you were the problem because it was easier than admitting I was scared I couldn't keep up. It was probably the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. I appreciate you saying that. I picked up my coffee. Good luck, Derek. As I walked out into the crisp morning air, heading toward my meeting in my tailored coat and heels, coffee in hand and confidence in my step, I realized something. Derek hadn't left me for someone who understood him better. He'd left me because I understood him too well. I saw through the artistic pretension to the fear underneath. And instead of confronting that fear, he'd blamed me for reflecting it back to him. But none of that was my burden to carry anymore. That evening, I had dinner with Melissa, who'd flown in for a work trip. Over glasses of excellent wine at a rooftop restaurant, I told her about running into Derek. How did it feel? She asked. I thought about it. Like running into someone I used to know a lawn handle her shine. I clinked my glass against hers. To knowing my worth. Because that was the real story. Not that Derek left me for someone else, but that his leaving cracked me open enough to realize I'd been living in a cage I'd built myself, with bars made of someone else's insecurities and limitations. Now I live in freedom. In a beautiful apartment that's mine, with a career that challenges and fulfills me, surrounded by people who celebrate my success instead of resenting it, dating people who add to my life instead of diminishing it, wearing clothes that make me feel powerful, taking trips that expand my world, investing in experiences and items that bring me genuine joy without guilt. This isn't about materialism or revenge. It's about authenticity, about building a life that reflects who Derek left me for someone who understood him better. In doing so, he set me free to finally understand myself. And that understanding has been worth more than any relationship ever could be. I don't miss him, but I'm grateful to him, because sometimes the best gift someone can give you is leaving. It makes space for you to discover that you were never too much or too little. You were always exactly enough. You just needed room to expand into your full self. And now I'm thriving in that space, and it's absolutely